Hey there, social media. It is week 6 of e-learning. Yay! All right, so this is officially the week that I give you your big quarter project. And I know you guys remember last quarter we ended right before spring break. We did the big quarter project. Now this is your quarter project. Now, normally, part of this quarter project would be to divide into groups and then get together collectively, argue your point, blah, 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 and then you'd actually, by the way, get together and then debate in class. And by the way, those are a lot of fun because we had some great conversations in our class, right? But we never really got to finish it because of how e-learning is. So we're kind of modifying it right now. So just be prepared. So I uploaded on Edsby already. I did I attached the PDF, like something like this. Yes. And it has all sorts of things and it has like exactly what the assignment is. Now, technically, this is a group project. So you are allowed to work with other people that are in your group. Okay. So if you, I've divided the class into groups. So A through N and O through W, basically. If you're at the beginning of the alphabet, you're on one side. If you're at the end of the alphabet, you're on the other side, okay? As someone who's at the end of the alphabet, I understand that. You kind of pretty much know where you are. It's you guys in the middle. They're like, okay, where are they going to put the divide? N and O, or the divider, okay? So here's what we're going to talk about. Now, as you guys know, in social media, one of our biggest issues that we've had is that even though I have to teach you about social media, I can't actually technically log on to our wireless network and show you actual examples of what social media looks like. So you're talking like I can't log on to Instagram. I can't log on to Facebook. I can't log on to a lot of these things, even on my login as a teacher on a lot of these things. And so, and even with you guys as students, you can't log on to Instagram. I can't even log on to Gmail for Pete's sake. There's a lot of things you can't log on to that are on our list of social media platforms that we're supposed to be learning about. Well, anyway, so this is the kind of question that we're kind of asking is that we all know that honestly that there are a lot of restrictions for wireless networks. There are private wireless networks we're basically allowed to log into, whether it's at school or whether it's at work or the mall, or there's a lot of like open networks. I mean, Starbucks and Panera and PDQ and a lot of places have wireless networks right now. And because they're private businesses, because a lot of that time they can restrict what sites do. And obviously we know that there are some sites that, let's be honest, people should not be on in public or at all. So you can understand how they're limiting or why they might want to limit that. And then of course there's some arguments for limiting things like social media, like at work, for example. You wouldn't want to know that your employees are basically spending all day doing TikTok on social media, rather than actually getting work done. I think that a lot of that is the same idea of the wireless at school as well, as that they want you to actually be engaging in class and things like that. However, the argument has come up with the idea of, as an educational setting especially, it is our job to teach you basically how to function in the real world. And that includes, by the way, when there are no restrictions. For example, one day you will, there's probably some limited restrictions at your house. Let's be honest. If you have Wi-Fi there, if you have a wireless network there, even now because of the special e-learning thing, there's probably some restrictions on some cases, but maybe just on your laptop, or maybe on your maybe there's parental controls or something like that. That's totally normal. But when you're the adult one day, we kind of expect you to make those decisions because you're the adult and you should know how to do that. So the question is, as an educational setting, should we as educators be teaching you less about don't do these bad things, and more about here's why and here's how you can make those choices, essentially accountability. So the idea is accountability, meaning kind of not necessarily an open Wi-Fi, but maybe a limited, maybe reassessing what we actually limit and why. And maybe that's something. So teaching accountability, or censorship, like basically what we have now, very, very restrictive. There's not a lot you can do. As you know, the wireless at our school was really slow and it wasn't really useful in a lot of cases. But it's not just Middleton, it's actually like that district wide. And it doesn't get better just because you're a teacher either. Let me just tell you that. We're still restricted on a lot of things we can't log on to, even, and again, not even social media, but there are times that I was looking up lesson plans for classes and I couldn't go onto certain sites because they were blocked because they're seen as not appropriate or not acceptable for educational standards. So, and again, let's be honest, it was a little difficult sometimes because I can't teach you how to blog if I can't let you guys on WordPress, and I can't teach you about different things if I can't do that. And then that is kind of difficult, and it is something that we may need to reassess in the future, obviously, as things evolve. But at the same time, maybe we need to go stricter. You know, if um, like we talked a lot about already, the fact is that the legal system is not caught up with where the internet is. The internet moves way faster, and the legal system has to go through committees. You guys know how long it takes to get laws passed. So, and the people passing them, you know, use the internet to find recipes. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the most part, yes, it's a stereotype. Forgive me, but you do know what I'm getting at here. The fact is that these aren't the tech geniuses of Silicon Valley that are setting a lot of these laws and setting a lot of these security issues. So the question is, and again, for your project, you will basically find an argument. So those of you guys who are A through N, you are arguing for censorship. You are arguing the fact that we should restrict, especially in an educational setting, we absolutely should restrict what websites are there. Now, then the O through W, the rest of the alphabet, basically, you are arguing against censorship. You are basically arguing that we should lift all restrictions and we should basically instead be teaching accountability and things like that. So some of your arguments basically that you're going to think about are, and I put some examples on here, are how we see this modeled out globally. For example, there are certain countries that are incredibly restrictive about what websites their citizens are allowed to see, versus there are some that are basically open sources. So there's, like, you can actually argue a historical aspect. You can argue economic. What is it? Is it better economics, you know, for or against? You can argue political stuff or local. You can actually go on and look up local policies, and you can actually go on to Hillsborough County's district website about the Wi-Fi and why they choose to do it and what's going on with that. You can absolutely look up your own. You can actually rely on your own personal experience. You can rely, there's so many different angles of it. If you again, so if you want to work together, totally fine with that. If you don't, if you want to work on your own, I'm totally fine with that too. So find a particular angle that you want to take. So whether you're for, because you're at the beginning of the alphabet, for censorship, or you're against censorship because you're at the end of the alphabet, because that's what I've assigned you, that's the thing I want you to start thinking about. Like, what do you want to argue? Now, say for example, I just assigned you a side you don't agree with. I don't care. Argue it anyway. There are a lot of examples and a lot of things where you have to play what's called devil's advocate. In other words, you have to basically argue for the opposite side. And part of what that does is it allows you to dive into what their argument is. Now, I'm not saying, I still want a valid argument from you. So I want you to argue, and I want you to kind of see the world or see the perspective from their side so that you can turn around and go, okay, I see what they're saying, but okay, so it actually will help you build a better argument. Now, let me give you an example. And I was actually talking with one of your classmates who came to the cap and gown pickup on last Friday. And one of the examples I used was that I happen to have be against the death penalty. So that's just how I am. And I really, to be totally fair, really wasn't 100% sure like what I felt about it. But when I was in high school and I was your age, I was also on the debate team. And so for our competition, we actually had to argue the death penalty for our final competition. And I was on the debate team and I was the closer. So I had to like basically do all the wrap up and everything like that. So I went because our our particular group we had to argue for the death penalty. We had to basically say the death penalty is totally worth it, and these are the reasons why. So I did a whole bunch of research and I put together my argument and we won. And people were like, wow, that's really cool. Like, I think I'm like, no, you don't understand. I totally don't believe anything I said was absolutely accurate. I'm just saying that I argued that side, and I'm glad I convinced you that I could do it that way, but I don't believe that at all. And in fact, it actually further strengthened why I was against the death penalty, because I did all that research about the other side. So it's something like this is a trait you can carry with you. Now, again, we live in a very political time, for example. So you may be really for one thing or for another, totally fine. But when you find out what the other side believes and you kind of dive in and looking at things like the economics and the history and things like that, you can kind of see where they're coming from. So that way, when you go and argue and you say, well, I understand this is what you believe and this is where you come from on this, but this is what I'm thinking because this is my perspective on this. You actually build a stronger argument that way. And you can actually put your point across because you know all of the history and all of the background. So that's what I want you to do here, essentially, is that I really don't care if you're for or against. I just want you to argue a side. So what you're going to do, essentially, rather than actually argue your point, you're actually going to write me an essay, basically, to argue your point. It's about a 3-paragraph argument, basically your intro, your main point, and then your conclusion. It does need to be typed up, double space, all of that's in the PDF, so please make sure you follow it. Make sure you edit it and make sure you check grammar, punctuation, all of that stuff. A lot of you guys are upperclassmen. I should not have to remind you where commas go. Okay, guys? So I'm going to expect you guys know that. And for those of you guys who are fairly new at high school, I get it. Consider this really great practice of turning in academic reflection papers, essentially, and things like that. So make sure make sure you go ahead and you're going to submit that paper basically by the deadline. So the final project is, again, due May 18th, but I've also put it due May 22nd. May 18th is specifically for the seniors because you guys need to be done with school. And May 22nd is for undergrad. So if it's done by May 22nd, you're good, guys. But seniors, definitely get it in by May 18th. That is a Monday, so you have that weekend. And I know some of you guys have EP exams, but so you're working things out. That's why I'm giving you essentially like 2.5 weeks or just over 2 weeks basically to finish this. So I think you guys can do it. Again, please feel free, connect, work with each other, argue it out. Do some research, talk to people, talk to your friends, talk to your parents, find out what they believe. Go online, research like local news, research global news, research all sorts of things, find out, and don't forget to cite your sources when you do, because if you say something like, well, CNN's latest statistics say blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's citing. That works for me. But if you're just going to be like, this is what it is, I'm going to be like, you're just making it up. Make sure you tell me where I get it from, because otherwise I'm going to think it's just you. And if it's just your opinion and you're stating a fact, it's going to be hard to, support that. Support that. Evidence and commentary, guys. Tell me what you believe, but tell me where you're coming from, okay? So make sure all that works. If you have any questions at all, you can absolutely, I will be back. Our meetings are back this week again. So you're more than welcome to join me on Thursday at noon. Ask me those questions. Send me EDSB messages. However you want to connect. I look forward to this, and I really do wish we could have a lovely little argument. Maybe we can figure out how to do that via Zoom. That would be kind of fun to hear you guys' argument. You're more than welcome to do that. Talk it out, figure it out. I look forward to your opinions. I always love hearing your opinions. Again, if you have any questions at all, please, 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 please contact me. I look forward to helping you. And again, 3 paragraphs should be pretty easy for most of you guys. So again, you have any questions? I'm here. All right. Have a great week, and I will check in with you next week just to kind of give you an update about where things are. But yeah, you guys are doing good. I miss you guys. Hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see some of you guys on Thursday, I would guess. And if not, bye.